This podcast is brought to you by Progressive. Are you driving your car or doing laundry right now? Podcasts go best when they're bundled with another activity, like Progressive home and auto policies. They're best when bundled, too. Having these two policies together makes insurance easier and could help you save. Customers who save by switching their home and car insurance to Progressive save nearly $800 on average. Quote a home and car bundle today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $793 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2021 and May 2022. Potential savings will vary. Before this week, I did not know very much about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. To be honest, Michael Schulman from over at The New Yorker, he isn't much of an MCU head either. But because he covers Hollywood, becoming an expert has not really been optional for him.
I mean, Marvel is the most successful franchise in movie history.
Okay, that's saying something.
Yeah, I mean, it's made more money than anything in movies since the existence of movies. And it not only is successful on its own, but it kind of created this model of having a cinematic universe where all of the different movies and eventually TV shows are connected on a fictional canvas, and one blockbuster can beget another blockbuster and lead audiences to the next product.
Has 2023 been kind to the MCU?
No, it's been disastrous.
2023 has been disastrous for Marvel at the box office, with ticket sales way down. It's been disastrous behind the scenes with the sudden departure of key executives. And then this week, it became disastrous in an entirely new way.
This morning, actor Jonathan Majors' ascent in Hollywood halted as he awaits sentencing.
Jonathan Majors was gearing up to be Marvel's next big star. Then he got found guilty of abusing his girlfriend.
Jonathan, how do you feel right now?
Majors convicted of 2 misdemeanors for recklessly assaulting his then-girlfriend, Grace Jabari, in March, fracturing her finger and leaving her ear bloody. He was acquitted of assaulting her intentionally.
He was found guilty of a domestic violence crime, essentially.
That is not the guy you want starring in your superhero film.
Yeah. And, this is obviously terrible for this woman, first of all. And also, a big headache for Marvel because they had cast him as this character, Kang, who was being set up to be the new supervillain, this villain that kind of pulled together different strains of Marvel storytelling.
Yeah, the thing about Jonathan Majors is that it's not like he was set up to play one character. He was like a whole universe of characters. At the end of one of Marvel's recent movies, he appeared in a little scene during the credits, and he was playing a whole bunch of different versions of himself.
And now kind of none of them are usable because Jonathan Majors himself has been fired.
Now that Majors is out, does what happened here say more about him as an actor in particular or wider troubles in the land of Marvel?
Well, it's both. They really pummeled you with this guy. You cannot escape Kang in any universe you travel to. He's going to be there. And now he's not going to be.
Today on the show, the rapid rise and precipitous fall of Jonathan Majors. Will it take down Marvel, too? I'm Mary Harris. You're listening to What Next? Stick around. This show is brought to you by Discover. In today's world, it can seem that the best treatment is reserved for only a few. Well, Discover wants to change that by making everyone feel special. That's why with your Discover card, you have access to 24/7 live customer service, as well as $0 fraud liability, which means you're never held responsible for unauthorized purchases. Finally, no matter who you are or where you are in life, you'll feel special with Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. Limitations apply. This episode is brought to you by Splunk. You need to keep operations humming around the clock, but potential disruptions are everywhere. Splunk helps you predict problems and find and fix issues fast, so you can reduce risk and ditch downtime. The world's largest enterprises rely on Splunk's unified security and observability platform to become more efficient, resilient, innovative. With Splunk, you can react quickly, evolve faster, and be ready for anything. Stay ahead of disruptions. Learn more at splunk.com/resilience. I wonder if you can do me a favor and explain who is Jonathan Majors, for those who might not know, because he's not just this Marvel supervillain. Like, he graduated from Yale School of Drama, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was someone who became prominent very quickly. I remember first noticing him in The Last Black Man in San Francisco, an A24 film in 2019.
Grotowski, Oslavsky, Chekhov, Brecht. These are the great.
I'm confused, bro.
In 2020, he was in Spike Lee's Da 5 Bloods and HBO's Lovecraft Country. He really built this career both as like a interesting dramatic actor who could be in like an HBO film, a Spike Lee project, A24 movies, as well as like big franchises. He's kind of big and brawny, but he also had this sort of brooding, cerebral quality.
He strikes me as really confident, too. Like, a New York Times writer tossed into their reporting this anecdote about how he showed up to an interview late, but he had a portable speaker playing Kanye West, and he was comparing himself to Al Pacino or Robert De Niro. So it sounded like he just had a lot of oomph.
Yeah. And it's not often that Hollywood is graced with just a sort of full-fledged movie star who just comes out of thin air. So I think everyone was really excited to have him.
Tell me about his Marvel Cinematic Universe character, Kang.
I mean, the thing is, it's many characters. So, there's like evil Kang the Conqueror.
And you think you can beat me? I am Kang!
There's scientist Victor Timely.
Time is everything.
That's part of the appeal of the role, is that it's many roles. It shows off your range. And he certainly seemed to have the range to do it all. It's kind of like being a repertory theater actor. You can just be a different person, put on a different costume, and you're someone else.
Let's talk about how things started to go south for Majors. Like, he was arrested in late March after an ex-girlfriend, Grace Jabari, filed a criminal complaint against him. What exactly happened here?
They were in a car. He got a text from someone, like a flirty text.
It was like, I wish I was kissing you right now or something.
Yeah, so she tried to grab the phone, and that led to this dispute where he ended up grabbing her hand really hard. And some of it was caught on video, like closed circuit TV video. So we've kind of seen the outside of the car with, what seems like him sort of trying to shove her back in. It was a violent confrontation. It
kicked off this whole evening where the ex-girlfriend sort of ran away, went clubbing, went back to the apartment, and Jonathan Majors came home to their apartment to find her locked in the bedroom and on the floor, and was worried that she had hurt herself, right?
Yeah, and the fact that she went out clubbing later is something that his defense lawyers tried to use against her unsuccessfully.
Right, like, it wasn't a big deal whatever happened because she was out and about.
There was also a very strange chapter to this where he filed a counter complaint against her, basically saying that she was the one attacking him, and she was arrested, but the DA declined to prosecute her for that. So she never had any sort of like
trial of her own.
Trial of her own, exactly.
But the allegations against Majors kept coming. In June, Rolling Stone reported that other women said they had also been mentally or physically abused by him. Eventually, Grace Jabari released recordings she'd made of her private interactions with Majors. In them, he criticized her drinking and told her she wasn't being supportive.
How dare you come home drunk and disturb the peace of our house when we have a plan? Coretta Scott King, you know who that is? That's Martin Luther King's wife. Michelle Obama, Barack Obama's wife. I'm a great man. A great man. I am doing great things.
He was dropped from a bunch of things. His management company dropped him. His PR company dropped him. He was supposed to be in ad campaigns for the U.S. Army, for the Texas Rangers. So he lost a lot of stuff in his career immediately as he awaited trial. But Marvel was the one big thing he was involved in that kind of sat on their decision. The minute he was found guilty this past week, they confirmed that they were firing him.
In a way, this decision was both a long time coming and instantaneous. Jonathan Majors lost his role as Kang within just a couple of hours of the verdict coming out.
I think in a way it would have been more complicated for them if he hadn't been found guilty, because then what do? You don't, Hollywood doesn't have to wait for a court of law. Like Kevin Spacey was written out of House of Cards and then later acquitted in trials. And there are a million other examples of people who just get, quote unquote, canceled, like they get fired for, whether it's under a morality clause in their contract or, people just declining to work with someone because they've revealed themselves to be so insanely difficult or just bad on some level that the audience doesn't want to see them. And, they're a corporate liability. So it seems like they waited sort of to see if he would be found guilty in a court of law before they decided to do anything about it, possibly because of how complicated and messy it is to extract him from the cinematic universe.
Strangely enough, Marvel was not the only major studio trying to untangle a knot from its narrative web this year. In October, DC said it was canceling all future projects with the star of the Flash franchise, Ezra Miller. Miller had been charged with disorderly conduct, assault.
He had this altercation with some patrons at a karaoke bar in Hawaii and was, paid a fine for disorderly conduct.
Police say that Miller got agitated and began yelling obscenities at people at a bar who was singing karaoke.
He was charged with a burglary in Vermont, taking alcohol from someone's home, and pleaded guilty to trespassing.
It's just the latest in a string of legal troubles for the 29-year-old actor.
I mean, there's so many bizarre things with his, behavior along the way, and they were kind of stuck with him. And, it was a big problem for this movie, which was also another kind of superhero failure of 2023, The Flash. And one of the problems was that Ezra Miller couldn't get out there and promote the film. They were just sidelined.
The way you tell it, it's almost like these movies kind of become too big to fail at a certain point. Like you have to just soldier on because, I don't know, you've spent so much money on it or invested so much in the actor.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there were reports that DC was considering just shelving The Flash, which looking back on how badly it did and how sort of despised it was, maybe they would have considered if they had known that. But they are too big to fail.
Do you think Jonathan Majors can come back from this with his reputation intact? Like, what do you think it would even take?
I mean, never say never. Like we've seen a lot of different people come back from various scandals and quote unquote cancellations. Louis C.K. is back doing stand-up, etc. I think a domestic violence conviction is going to be extremely hard to come back from. But I also think that, the Me Too movement has shown us that we maybe don't need to prioritize that question of what happens to an abuser's career or fame. What's really important is, the people that they mistreated and, patterns of misogyny and harassment and violence. And so maybe Jonathan Majors should be working on himself rather than a movie.
Coming up, after a decade of box office dominance, what comes now for Marvel? This episode is brought to you by SAP. First, the bad news. SAP Business AI will not help you generate cubist versions of your family's holiday photos, but it will help you understand which supplier is best to help you roll out your plant-based packaging in Southeast Asia, or identify the training your junior project manager needs to rise up the ranks, or automate repetitive tasks while you focus on big innovations. So you can be ready for the next opportunity. Revolutionary technology, real-world results. That's SAP Business AI.
Toyotathon is on, so stop in and get a great deal on an off-road ready RAV4 or spacious Highlander, both with available all-wheel drive. Find out more at buyatoyota.com. Hurry, Toyotathon ends January 2nd. Toyota, let's go places. Toyotathon is on, so stop in and get a great deal on a sporty new Camry or stylish Corolla, both with available all-wheel drive. Find out more at buyatoyota.com. Hurry, Toyotathon ends January 2nd. Toyota, let's go places.
You've alluded to some other problems Marvel's faced this year, especially at the box office. Can you just explain where Marvel is more generally and how Jonathan Majors fits into that?
Well, they started off the year with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which was a pretty bad opening and a pretty disliked movie.
Headache-inducing visuals that are so obnoxiously overdone you can barely even process what you're seeing, and an ending that effectively puts everything back exactly as it was before, so that there's absolutely no weight or consequence to anything that you just saw.
It was just not that good, and in particular the special effects were seen as muddy and crude, and that was a big problem because that's one of the things that Marvel is known for. They bounced back a bit with the spring movie, the Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which did okay, but like it didn't gross as much as Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So you sense these diminishing returns. But people liked it. And then with their most recent movie, The Marvels, it was just a disaster. It was the lowest grossing MCU movie in their history. And you know, critically it had some support, but it just seemed like people did not want to see it and didn't care anymore. I mean, this was really the year that, you know, like the sheen came off with Marvel. Like it was seen as unbeatable, as just this juggernaut that would never end. And now there's a real question of how many years is this thing going to be, you know, the dominant force in movies?
I guess it's important to say that, like, the more Marvel you watch, the more you maybe enjoy it, because there are all these little Easter eggs for people who are super fans and have watched a lot of them. Like, characters will pop up and you'll only really know what they're doing there if you've watched something, 2 movies or TV shows before.
Yes. You know, it rewards expertise. And that works for a major movie franchise only as long as there's a mass audience coming back for more. You know, when I talked to one of the writers of Avengers Endgame, which was their biggest movie, and he described going to see it in the theater and seeing all the people like cheering for specific things that you would only know if you saw the X number of movies that came before. And he said something to me like, it's preaching to the choir, but the choir is nearly global. You don't have to cater to people who don't care about Marvel, because enough people do, that you can have blockbuster after blockbuster after blockbuster with people who have seen everything and know everything, or know enough to follow. And I think it got to the point where it actually was a little too complicated and hard to follow what was happening. You had to watch, you know, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus to understand what was happening, and like Black Panther 2 or whatever. I'm just grabbing things out of thin air. Please don't correct me. But, you know, it got a little much for some people. It got to feel like work. And already Disney is scaling back significantly, you know, what comes out of the content faucet.
Was Jonathan Majors' character Kang, was that designed to kind of address some of the issues you're saying are inherent to Marvel movies, like maybe a lack of depth or too much chaos?
In a way, yes, because I think, you know, the way that the Marvel universe started, which was so exciting, was that they would introduce, you know, a hero, a different Avenger in each movie, and then they all came together for the movie The Avengers. So awesome. Then the next phase was introducing some more characters, and then they all come together in this even bigger team for the Avengers in Endgame. After that, the storytelling seemed to lose a lot of focus. Like, you know, the stories went in a lot of different directions, and they didn't have that same sort of momentum building up to a new thing. I think that's one of the problems that people have had with, you know, the last couple of years of Marvel. It has seemed diffuse. And Kang was potentially a way to sort of bring people together again. And one of the Avengers movies that is being planned is called the Kang Dynasty. Potentially, like Thanos, he could have been like a sort of central antagonist that brought all these disparate strands together to, defeat him.
Do you expect to see a Kang movie coming out?
I mean, that's the big question for Marvel fans is what are they going to do? Are they going to find a new Kang, or are they going to find a new supervillain?
Now that it seems like Marvel's star may be fading a bit, audiences aren't coming, is there some new thing that's looking to take its place? Some new place where the energy in Hollywood is going?
Well, I mean, in a way, we're living in the world that Marvel created, in the sense that IP and franchises are now the bread and butter.
Like there would be no Barbie movie without Marvel?
I was thinking more of Wednesday, the big hit on Netflix. They've just announced that they're going to do an Uncle Fester series, and they're going to do other spinoffs of Wednesday. So there's now like, Addams Family TV universe. Everybody wants a universe. Everyone wants a kind of IP property that can like be spun off ad infinitum forever. I think Marvel and this sort of the model that it helped create was closer than a lot of other things to like a sure bet, in show business. If we have this canvas with all these characters that are that have a built-in fan base from the comics, it doesn't matter if any particular installment is great or if any particular actor in the Marvel universe is that famous from other stuff. It was a web. It was a web of stories, and you had to sort of immerse yourself in it. So I think it offered Hollywood this illusion that you can just create a machine that runs on its own.
In a way, talking to you, I kind of wonder if the really notable thing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that it worked as a franchise for so long.
It is incredible that Marvel has dominated for a decade and a half. It's very rare that any kind of genre can be that successful for that long. I mean, in a way, a lot of people compare Marvel to Westerns. Like, Westerns were so dominant in, the 40s, 50s. And then eventually they didn't feel current. They didn't feel as relevant anymore. And people, would reinvent and continue to reinvent and play with the form of the Western. To have one company define popular culture and sit on the top of popular culture for a decade and a half is a really long time. It's really hard to think of other things that are like that.
Yeah, I wondered a little bit if the Marvel story was really a what goes up must come down kind of story in the end.
Right. But now, you have kids who are discovering movies, and Marvel is what their parents like. Who wants to like what your parents like?
Michael, I'm super grateful for your time. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Michael Schulman is a staff writer for The New Yorker. And that's our show. What Next is produced by Paige Osburn, Elena Schwartz, Rob Gunther, Madeline Ducharme, and Anna Phillips. We are led by Alicia Montgomery with a little boost from Susan Matthews. Ben Richmond is the Senior Director of Podcast Operations here at Slate. And I'm Mary Harris. Thanks for listening. Catch you back here next time.
Toyotathon is on, so stop in and get a great deal on a rugged new Tacoma or Tundra, ready to tackle the toughest weather. Find out more at buyatoyota.com. Hurry, Toyotathon ends January 2nd. Toyota, let's go places.